Hello and thanks for stopping by. This is a Raspberry Pi computer inside a Vic-20 style case, printed and built by myretrocomputer.com. Normally I tend to build my own computers, but myretrocomputer.com had a few completed systems they were trying to sell. I knew I needed a Raspberry Pi machine, and they've been kind of hard to find lately, so I just thought I'd buy a complete system and see what I got. This is my second case from the manufacturer. I put up a video a week ago about the PC build that I put together and it came out great. I'll link that video in the description. This particular case is styled after the Commodore Vic-20, and this was a popular Commodore computer released in 1980. It was the model that came out right before the Commodore 64, actually. My cousin had one of these models when I was a kid, and I played it once or twice, but for me, the Commodore 64 model was always the machine that I went towards. But I like the look of this one, so I'm happy I got it. The one thing I noticed first when I got this machine was that it actually had some weight to it. The Raspberry Pi machine itself is pretty small, so to have a machine that actually felt sturdy in my hands was kind of a surprise. I guess the additional brackets and mounts inside the case helped make it feel a little heavier and maybe more sturdy. I have to say overall this one came out pretty great and looks awesome. I cracked the case open so I could add a separate drive inside. I had a spare mechanical drive that I bought a few years back that was just collecting dust in a closet. Basically, Western Digital made a special Pi drive for a period of time, and I had one of these that I picked up. I never did anything with it, so this seemed like a good place to give it a try. It's just over 300 gigabytes of storage, which, for a computer like this, should be plenty of storage space. And it actually mounts under the existing drive enclosure that's already in the case. I didn't actually fit the plug into the enclosure, which was what this enclosure was designed for, but the build includes mounting brackets underneath, and the holes are all in the right spot to let you add separate drives. I think this is a well thought out build overall. This Raspberry Pi machine also has a power module mounted on the top of the machine, which is what allows you to turn the machine on and off. Without this, you just plug it in and out of the wall to make sure it goes on and off. Using an on and off button with the Raspberry Pi, it doesn't exactly work quite like you'd expect it to. Basically, you have to program the Pi to understand what the signal is to turn the machine on and off. It works, but it's not as immediate. This build came with the Raspberry Pi plate in the back as well, which is really great because it makes it all look smooth. It gives you access to certain USB ports, a USB-C power plug, and 2 micro HDMI ports. I think it's great that you can run 2 monitors off of this little computer, but for me personally, I would have preferred 1 full-size HDMI port as opposed to 2 micro ports. That's probably just me though, but I've got plenty of cables kicking around, plenty of HDMI cables kicking around, not so many HDMI micro. The right side of the machine also has 2 USB ports available, and USB ports, as you know, they are always handy. The left side of the machine has a fake DVD drive panel. The Raspberry Pi doesn't have enough power to run both the machine and a DVD drive at the same time, so they include this particular filler panel, and instead, inside, there's a housing for an additional drive. The machine was all put together for me, and it was ready to go as soon as it arrived. When I opened it up, the first thing I noticed were how well the wires were routed. They used zip ties to hold together wires, and they had these little plastic mounts stuck on the inside just to keep the wires in line. There's plenty of space in a case like this when you use a Raspberry Pi. When I build my PC, wires have to get stuffed all over the place. The last build I did was just like this. It's certainly workable, but building a case and having the extra space to comfortably work is really nice. I loaded the basic Raspberry Pi operating system on this one, and it boots up just like you'd expect. It's amazing to me how you can get such a great little computer working for so little. I mean, if you just bought the Raspberry Pi itself, you basically get a fully functioning computer for what, like $60 maybe? My first PC in college was like $1,800. This is so much more accessible. This particular install came with some installed Commodore emulators, although the icons that I have in my system don't seem to be launching just yet. I'm pretty sure I need to update some program files. If you're not familiar with Linux, the one thing you kind of learn is how different the system is when it's compared to Windows or Mac OS. In Linux, there's definitely a more manual process required to get things working. Some things will work just fine from the get-go, of course, but you're going to want additional things. It's how you want your computer to be, right? You're going to have to drill down and learn how to install all these little different modules to get things to run. There's a certain level of complexity with a system like this, but even with the learning curve, it's really nice to have that level of control. Personally, I know enough about Linux to build a system and get most things working that I need to work. I'm still learning though, and it's a lot of fun along the way. So this company, myretrocomputer.com, is running a Kickstarter in the next month or so, and they're going to print a bunch of different color housings just like this. They're going to mimic some of the original Commodore machine colors, and they're also going to offer a stack of new colors as well. I'm really looking forward to this particular offering, and I'm hoping to get a couple additional cases. There are a lot of motherboards out there, even single board computers, that might actually work really well with something like this. Well, that's all I have today for this Vic-20 Raspberry Pi build. If you like this type of video, please feel free to like and subscribe and all that stuff, and I hope to catch you on another video.